Right now, it is time for This Week in the Lakeville Journal here on Robin Hood Radio. And, of course, it is something we do every week on a Thursday, taking a look at some of the stories, just some of the stories. We're joined by both John and Janet from the Lakeville Journal. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So are you guys finally tired and relaxed and say, okay, the 125th anniversary is over. We can now really officially start 126.
Exactly. That's right.
Well, but it wrapped up in spectacular fashion with the American Journalism as a get-together with Brian Ross being the questioner, and then your Jubilee.
Yes. Go ahead, Janet.
Now, I'll just say that, boy, the Salisbury Forum was such a great event, and it was Marty Barron, Subrata D., John Costin, questioned by Brian Ross, and questioned by people in the audience, of course, who at the end of the discussion. And it was just enlightening, provocative, really a great event. If you didn't get to see it, by all means, go to the Salisbury Forum website. They have the video available. Take a look.
All right, so now we can move on, and unfortunately, we move on to politics. Now, I say unfortunately because politics seems to be now a 12-month, a 24-hour-a-day subject that social media likes to cover, and they take all the truth out of it in social media. We can talk about it with people in media, especially local newspapers that cover locally. You've got a story by Patrick Sullivan where the candidates for the legislature talking about their priorities, and that happened in Goshen.
Yes, they met on a Wednesday evening in Goshen. And the event was sponsored by the Goshen Business Circle, and it was Maria Horn, who's running for a third term. Her opponent is Chris DuPont, a Republican, of course. And then Stephen Harding is running for the 30th Senate seat that Craig Minor held, and as well is Eva Bermudez Zimmerman. And they all took questions, and we put a pretty good-sized story in the paper about where they all stand on various priorities. So DuPont, really focused a little bit on big government and getting law enforcement focus back, along with that on small businesses. Maria, we're all familiar with Maria Horn's positions because she's been in office, but she's still, again, focused a lot on broadband, rural health care, and the ability for conservation to be on the front burner. Zimmerman focused on education and small business, and I think it's probably a good idea to get the paper and read the story because it does sort of elaborate on where they all stand.
It gives you more of the details. Exactly right. Interesting story. I spoke with Bethany Schiffer from Sharon Audubon about a week and a half ago. We just touched upon this, but you've got a nice full story on this about Sharon Audubon listening for pinging birds. It's a lot more than that headline might people think, because they really are doing some pretty impressive things at the center.
Yes, this is a story about written by Eileen Fielding, who's the center director and an important scientist up there at the center, about a tower they put up that tracks flybys within up to a 15-mile circle of birds that are migratory and also local to our area. So it's a program sponsored by Birds Canada, and there are at this point about 1,000 towers worldwide. What we pointed out is that there was a little Swainson's thrush that came flying through that was the first bird pinged at Sharon. And what I highly recommend is going on the website, and you go to www.motus.org, MOTUS, you can really see a dramatic illustration, like almost a moving weather map, of where all these birds are moving around on the planet. fascinating.
Yeah, no, that's why I wanted to. Yeah, if you read the story, it's much more than just listening for birds. It's a lot. It's a lot different than that, and it's once again a local look and a local involvement in something that is actually global, and it's our contribution to finding out the global facts of bird migration. Next story, we got the press release, and you got it. The Save the Sharon Hospital Group has really put out a great information piece on what's coming up with the state of Connecticut and the hearings that are going on. And you've got a story, John, that you penned on this. And I give the folks from the Save the Sharon Hospital a lot of credit for gathering this information and for pushing this along and keeping it in front of the public.
Right. Well, I guess I would say that this is twofold. There's a big OHS hearing coming up, and that's on October 18th. And I think that's something that people can either attend via Zoom or submit public comment. And then Save Sharon Hospital organization is hosting at least 3 community meetings.
Well, and one of them coming up tomorrow.
That's right. And then there will be one in Salisbury. That's the one tomorrow is in Sharon. There'll be one in Salisbury and one in Millerton. The story is a pretty skeletal just look at what pivotal points are coming up, and also mentioning that this hospital obviously serves two distinct regions, the Dutchess County and the Northwest Corner. And actually, Dutchess County makes more use out of the hospital, if you counted the numbers, than the Northwest Corner.
Yeah.
But also, the story points out that the situation is building in terms of pressure. I think 6 or 7 towns, including Amenia, have officially opposed the changes that Sharon wants to make.
All right. Now, on top of the meeting tomorrow with Save the Sharon Hospital, a couple of other interesting things that are happening both tomorrow and the next day. Once again, there's going to be a discussion from a Hotchkiss School art history teacher that is happening on the golden age of painting. And then on the 24th, it's nice to have it back in its full-fledged, and that is the Peddler's Flea Market coming to Falls Village.
Yes, and you don't want to forget that the Salisbury Fall Festival is returning in its 65th year. That's around the corner in October. Yep. But, yeah, there's a lot coming up. The Drake Talks promises to be really fascinating. Rembrandt, Vermeer, and the Peddler's Flea Market. I think I'll go myself. I can't resist those things.
Nice story on Mike Mangini. I did an interview with him, and your story points out exactly what Mike Mangini is going to do, how he's going to continue his practice, and gives people information on that. And it's important just simply for the fact that Mike's been around for so long. There's so many people that have been affected by the decision at Gear to end that outpatient practice, and Mike is continuing on.
Yes, and this is a great story by Deborah Alexenis. He has been there, as you, I think, mentioned, for a long time, 25 years. He's still a young man, in my calculation, and he is really well known around here. And so we devoted some space to him and sort of talked about where he came from, what he's done, and what he plans to do.
Yeah, it's just when you have so many patients, and you know what, more and more, as we've found over the past 15, 20 years, physical therapy is now an active partner with regular medicine, because it just helps people so much more after a diagnosis and works well. So that's what's so important about that. Let's move on here just a little bit, and well, I can't pass this story up because until my knees started hurting me, I was a golfer. There was a hole-in-one at Hotchkiss that happened on September 15th, and it was Sue Kittner of Clinton Corners, and I got my only hole-in-one at Hotchkiss on green number 8 many, many years ago. And when you get one of those and you're an amateur golfer, you deserve to be recognized in your local paper.
Exactly. And, you know, I play golf myself. I don't think I've ever had a hole-in-one. But what's important to note in this story as well is that the event was witnessed by 3 people from Lakeville: Shelda Unit, Randy Olson, and Ben Zalman. They were all there, and that's very important that you validate this effort.
Well, and what's great about it is when I got my hole-in-one, that was playing with Don Martin, and so he validated it. And normally what you do on a golf course, once you get a hole-in-one, once you get in, you have to buy everybody drinks. Well, it was late in the day, and there was only Jim Kennedy was around, the golf pro, so I only had to buy him a soda. And Don Martin, I wonder how many people were at the golf course when Sue got her hole-in-one.
I don't know.
That's just something that you do. You buy a round. And that's why most people don't want to get a hole-in-one when they're at a golf tournament, because it's about 150 people at most golf tournaments. Well, I'll skip over and go to the editorial and the viewpoint pages here before we move on to Compass. And I want to once again go back, Janet, as I opened up the show, gratitude and joy as 125th celebration come to a close.
Right. What a month it was. It was. There were so many community-building events, and for that, gratitude to everyone in the communities and to our foundation board, who was so energetic in pulling together these events. And, we didn't mention the photo on the front page, maybe we did, of the Jubilee Gala that happened on Saturday night. It was incredible. More than 400 people attended. Beautiful night. Just couldn't have been a better event. Seeing so many friends in the newspaper, new friends, old friends, it was just amazing. And this is something that gives us inspiration to move forward into 126. And we want to make the point that we want to continue to hear from our readers what they want to see. We will be putting a survey in the paper and up online, so by all means take part in that and let us know what you'd like to see going into the future, and we will continue to do our best to have the best local journalism we can provide.
And we can go to the letter section because Roberta Willis has a very interesting letter, and it's just plain and simple, which I've been saying, and I think you've been saying forever. Local news needs to survive, not only survive, but to thrive.
Right. Isn't it great to hear that from our former representative, Roberta Willis, who knows the paper very well over many years and understands what the need is between our governing and our journalists. So always, a voice of reason, and we're so grateful to have her support in this letter. And we also have a few interesting letters from Joanne Hayhurst and Carol Schultz on Johanna Hayes' record, and Barbara Maltby on Salisbury planning and zoning, that they should continue to hear concerns. We have Turning Back the Pages, which is always interesting, and we have interesting piece by Mac Gordon, our occasional observer, on flooding, and he did a lot of research on how flooding will continue around the globe, and seeing what's happening in Pakistan and Puerto Rico right now, this is extremely timely.
And Lonnie Carter's Sovereign State, the monarchy, touches upon something that even people that weren't aware of before, after the past week to 10 days, are aware of the monarchy now.
That's right. He admits that, it wasn't top of his list to think about, but certainly we were all pulled into that fold, and there are many people who do watch that royal family in England and are, fascinated by it, and spent the whole week watching the funeral of Queen Elizabeth.
And getting back to the letter by Barbara Maltby, it's not exactly in association with that, but some big decisions coming up for Salisbury Planning and Zoning. And one of the things that just happened this week is the plans for the updating of 343 Main Street in Lakeville. The plans are now been put on hold. Now, the person who put the plans in actually is the one that puts it on hold because he had some complaints. And I find it very interesting what the Salisbury Planning and Zoning Commission did is they denied the application with prejudice, which means that application can come back before them rather quickly with whatever changes might go on. So it's, I give credit. it's being on these commissions, Janet, where you're not paid is amazing, and the decisions you have to make are decisions that go forward for years and years. I give these people a lot of credit.
Well, they affect our communities in such profound ways. You're right. The effects go on for years and years, and it's very hard to make everybody happy. That just about never happens. But these members of, especially planning and zoning commissions, do a lot of research and have a lot of knowledge about these decisions they have to make. Yeah, Barbara Maltby talks about a past decision that she is comparing to the one they're doing now, and keep close watch on this. That hearing will continue, and it will mean a lot to those involved and to the town to see where it goes.
And this comes back to what we talked about, both John and Janet, is that hey, local radio stations can do a lot, word of mouth, posters can do a lot, and everything, but extensive follow-up news coverage, which is only provided via print and also here now locally, there's only one real local newspaper that provides these updated stories where it's the full story behind the story is available, and that's why the Lakeville Journal needs to be around for another 125 years.
As long as the towns are here, let's hope we can manage that. And we do have a story that I think we passed by on the bridge closing on Salmon Kill Road, which we had also put up online, and I think, John, that got a lot of looks.
Yeah, I posted that too. That's an important bridge closing, and it can be closed for quite a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, till spring.
Yeah, and that's one of those things where something went wrong. That was a bridge that was done, and something went wrong, and that
was actually one of the first ones that was done when they were being
that's an important thing that people should see.
Yeah. And Jen, I just wanted to get back to something that you said. The relevance, the need for follow-up, now that we've pretty much trained everybody, sadly, to just read a headline, is critical, because things change. Like peeling an onion. Sorry, so trite. But more and more emerges, and you have to know you have to redevelop attention span.
Well, the whole thing, Janet, about what has happened with newspapers, that you're one of the few local newspapers that have been around this long that is surviving, and it's your reorganization to become a nonprofit, and your community board really is making a difference. And just imagine if you didn't take those steps, what we would be faced with right now. That's what I say. Yeah.
And there's another aspect to this that was mentioned at the forum, and that is that small newspapers are quite possibly now the last training ground for Journalism 101. It's pretty hard to break into the really big national dailies these days without some kind of a special entry card. But you can start out at a small newspaper. I was once, years ago, advised a young reporter to go south, and I said, go to Mississippi, and he did, and he worked on a small daily, and he won a Pulitzer Prize about 15 years later.
Yeah, it's so important. When I got into radio, the way you got into radio is you worked your way up from tiny little stations to where you wanted to be, and that's even gone the way. So that's what makes this even more important to support local journalism. Let us move on here because, once again, we have come back so well from COVID and all the restrictions, there's a lot of things that Compass covers this week.
That's right. The top story actually is on streaming from Ed Furman, which, of course, he started this column for us during COVID, and that's when we were, glued to our inside small screens. But once in a while, I think we still go back, and he recommends 11/22/63 and Shining Girls. Take a read. They look fascinating. When you're tired of going out and want to just stay in for an evening, here are some suggestions. But the Haystack Book Talks Festival is coming up, and it's a great event with lots of fascinating authors, and I know, John, you could probably talk about this better than I.
And they've by the way, John, they've expanded it with even more authors this year over that whole weekend.
Absolutely, and it is Michael Selleck who started this out in the beginning, has really grown it into a fascinating 3-day event. It starts off with a Brendan Gill lecture. Brendan Gill, of course, was the famous writer for The New Yorker, and who was one of those individuals responsible, with, along with Jackie Kennedy, to preserve Grand Central Station. So it's definitely a key event coming up in the end of this month and into the first 2 days of October.
Now, also in Compass, and it caught my eye right away because of the picture, Cool Cars by Lance Christensen, Carol Shelby's masterpiece, the AC Cobra.
Right, there's the photo. Of course, Lance Christensen is our photographer and reporter who takes fantastic photos. So, right, if you like an AC Cobra, take a look at that shot and give it a read. He clearly enjoys these vehicles, too. And we also have a piece on Donald Sosin of Salisbury, well-known, longtime friend of the paper, used to write for Compass, so he's a member of the Lakeville Journal family as well. He's performing in Bantam, Connecticut on next Wednesday, September 28th, with klezmer violinist Elisha Svalek. So it'll be great. He's a fantastic musician, really wonderful in person, and if you have any interest at all, don't miss it.
And what the Sosins have done, starting 25 years ago, they're now internationally renowned for what they do with silent films and adding music along with those, live music along with the silent films. They're just an amazing couple with what they do.
Those are so fun to see, and they are doing that in Princeton, New Jersey the following day, National Silent Movie Day. Amazing. They are so good.
And Cynthia Hoshmunder talks about a book, Seeing the Loss of a Loved One as a Place to Begin Again.
Right. This is by Bruce McKever, longtime resident of Salisbury, and he's written a memoir, as so many people talk about doing in their lives, but he's actually done it, and there will be many people in our listenership who remembers his late wife, Georgia McKever, who died suddenly in 2000, and he went forward and picked up new chapters in his life that made them fascinating enough to write a book about. So give that a read.
And we talk about this, but of course, Tricorner News also includes the Millerton News, and you can get subscriptions, by the way, to either one of those online. But Tricorner News is an important site if you want to visit one of the papers or the other and get your news digitally. Guys, it's always great to speak to you on a Thursday morning. Have a great week, and we'll speak to you next week and see what happens in our tri-state region.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Have a good week.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right. That is This Week in the Lakeville Journal. Once again, digitally available at tricornernews.com, available at newsstands for pickup throughout the tri-state newsstands. Listen to that. Do people even remember what newsstands are?
They should, because I tell you, there's something about looking. I've had some really interesting conversations with younger people, quote, and they go look at things and they touch things and they say, oh, yeah, it's totally different.
But anyways, tricornernews.com.